it's Mary. Today I'm filming part 2 of my February book haul, and I have another 6 books to talk about. So I think February was surprisingly a very good reading month, considering also that is a very short month. I have to say that I did read short books during this month, so that probably helps with the number. But I also have to say that I tend to enjoy longer books in general, and I think, you know, it shows in my ratings, because most books that are very short I don't rate more than 3 stars. So probably I should get back to my old, you know, big books that I enjoy a lot. But of course, the sense of accomplishment that short books manage to give you is, I mean, it's something. So yeah, again, I'm going in the order in which I read them because it's gonna be easier for me. So yeah, let's start with where I left off. We've got Red, White and Royal Blue by McQuinston. So this is my first sort of dive into romance novels, because I'm not a romance reader. It's not that I have any sort of issues with the genre, it's just something that I don't think would appeal to me. I seriously am no book snob. I am no snob in any sort of field in general in life, because I enjoy a lot of embarrassing stuff or just stuff that it's not popular, and I never cared about that. So it's not because of the genre. I just thought that since I'm not a very romantic person, like at all, I don't tend to enjoy cheesy stuff, and so this one was sort of that. I did give this one 3 stars because I had fun reading it. It was very funny in parts, but ultimately I think this confirms that the romantic, you know, romance as a genre is not really for me, especially because the premise for me ticked all the boxes. It's something that, you know, was very, very appealing to me. A male-male romance. They're young. The story is that it's an alternative. It's an alternative reality in which we have the son of the President of the United States, that is a woman, Alex, and the Prince of England, who is Henry. And they basically hate each other because they had like some issues in some events that happened, but of course they end up loving each other. So I love the trope that, you know, first you hate the other person and then that turns into love. I love pining, and I don't feel like this one had enough pining. Like they were sort of, I mean, it's not instant, of course, because they hate each other, but it was sort of very easy, I would say, as a romance. And I possibly also want a little bit more depth, a little bit more struggles. It's not that I want them to. I mean, I remember that like Heartstopper, that is a, you know, light-hearted sort of cheer you up romance. I would say that's a romance as well, but possibly because it's a graphic novel, it's different, and I really enjoy that one. In written form though, I felt like it was a bit too much for me. They were too cheesy, they were too much in love, they were too much like obsessed with each other. And I also felt so much younger than they were, because they are like 22, 23 years old, and they feel like they're 16. And don't get me wrong, I know that when you fall in love, you know, even if you're in your 30s or 40s, 50s, you sort of feel like you're a teenager again. But yeah, like the way in which their dynamics were just very young. And I don't think this one is marketed as a YA just because it has some like smut scenes. I think it's like new adult. I don't even know. But yeah, I mean, I had fun. That's the important thing. And it reminded me of fan fiction that I used to read. Actually, it was like a fan fiction to me. I don't mean that in a bad, you know, way, because I read some awesome fan fictions back in the days when I was obsessed with stuff that I won't mention, because yeah. But yes, I mean, of course, everybody seems to be loving this one so much, and it's definitely, you know, a read that it's quick and fun, I would say, but I need something different from a book. possibly. And also, something that I didn't even know that apparently applies to the genre is that romance novels do have like a happy ending. Like that's just something like a unspoken rule or something like that. And I hate that, because to me that's a spoiler, and I want to be like, some people maybe dive into this thinking I want to have a happy ending, and I don't really want to know the ending. Actually, if I'm reading something and I know how it ends, it sort of spoils the fun for me. I just want to, you know, I want to care about the characters, and I want to be surprised by the ending, which doesn't mean that it has to be something, you know, completely out of the blue. It just means that I don't want to know if they end up together or not. So I don't think this genre is for me, basically. Then I read The Deep by Rivers Solomon, and again, this one was a bit of a letdown. The premise of the book was very interesting. During the slave trade, black pregnant women were tossed in the water, and because they were, you know, seen as a bother. And what happens here is that actually they die, but they give birth to little mer people that then they build their own sort of people, their own society underwater and in the deep, as it says. And as a people, they don't have memory, just because the memory of the whole thing is so painful. To protect themselves, they don't have any memory of what happened to them. But all but one mer person that is called the historian, and they have, you know, they can access to all these memories, and they sort of relive again also the painful memories. So they have such a, you know, hard life, and they also have to share, like they have these big meetings where they share some of the memories. The protagonist of the novel, which is a novella actually because it's very short, it's Yatu, and she is this historian, but she cannot bear all the pain and suffering that she is experiencing being the historian. So it's basically her story and how she wants to get away from the whole thing. And again, as I said, the premise was very good and interesting, but I didn't particularly enjoy the writing style so much. What bothered me the most about this book was repetitions. It was very repetitive in terms of structure and just things that I felt like it was, you know, it was a filler, and it's already very short. So possibly this could have been a short story without having to remind yourself why she's gone and when she thinks about her people back in the deep and how they are processing the fact that she's gone. Practically, she repeats that, the protagonist of the novel repeats that a lot of times, and I felt like it was very unnecessary. And ultimately that, you know, ended up really, really sitting not very well with me. That was the main thing, because otherwise it was a good story. And I actually started this on audio, but I couldn't follow it because it's a fantasy, and also, as I said, I don't always have the best experiences with audio, although I'm going to talk about it more because I did listen to more audiobooks. But then for this one, I switched to the ebook, and it was, you know, a bit better, but it also took me quite a long time to go through, even though it's, again, very short. But the message was very powerful, and I did like, you know, how it came through, how history is painful, but it's less painful if you feel like you're not carrying it alone. And yeah, so I mean, this has stellar reviews, so probably it's just a me thing, as I said. But yeah, this one. Then I listened to an audiobook that I really, really enjoyed, which was Luster by Raven Leilani. And this is I mean, it was marketed, I'm not sure if it's marketed as romance, but when I picked up Red, White, and Royal Blue, I was like, let's try another sort of romance novel and see if it's just, you know, if it's just not for me at all. But this one is not really a romance. I mean, there's, you know, there's a romantic relationship that ties everything together, but ultimately is the story of 20-something, I think she's 22-year-old black woman, and how she struggles, you know, in her daily life with her job that, and with her relationship that she starts with this married man, basically. She's very open about sex and about her sexuality in a way that was very refreshing, I would say. I didn't read a lot of books like this one, which I know that are actually floating around all over, BookTube for some years now, but I'm always late to the party. But this one was extremely good because, first of all, I didn't have any expectations going in. And the writing style was exquisite. I really liked it. It was very descriptive. And that's why also I wish I read this one on paper again, because, lots of descriptions, I feel like I have to savor them in a different way. I want to be able to look at the page, to look at all the different, especially lots of words. And for a non-native speaker, I feel like sometimes audio fails in this respect. So yeah, but anyway, very rich writing style, and it did go, this book went to places that I was not expecting. I mean, it's not, super surprising, you have a big reveal and nothing like that, but it had some little twists that were very dark, and I wasn't really sure how, what the outcome would be of this novel, and I really enjoyed the experience, as I said. Also, the narrator, the protagonist of the novel is not very relatable, but at the same time, you sort of really feel for her, and I think the author manages to put you in her shoes, and you're sort of, sometimes you don't agree maybe with what she does, but you're like, oh, I guess that makes sense. So I highly recommend this one because it was freaking good. Then I read a short story collection, which was Last Caution by Elileen Chang. This book has like some short stories by the author, has how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 short stories, and they were written between like the 40s and the 70s, and they're all translated by different people. I picked this one up because this month was China was one of the countries for the Invisible Cities project that I'm gonna leave a link down below too. And I always wanted to read this one because I sort of watched part of the movie, because there's a movie called Lost Caution, which was very intriguing. And I was a bit let down by this book. I gave it 3 stars. Mainly I wanted to read Lost Caution, but then of course I was intrigued because I did enjoy her writing style, but Lost Caution was a bit, probably it's my fault is in watching the movie first, because I didn't watch all of it because I was like, oh, I know there's a short story, so I want to be able to read that one. But actually the movie went further than the short story. So the short story, I was already spoiled for the short story, and actually it ends differently. So I didn't really enjoy how it was wrapped up, but the writing of the first one was very, very good. So that one, there is another story that I enjoyed more, which was Great Felicity, and it was about a marriage. That one was great. I really, really liked it, but the other ones, not so good. Also, the fact that this was translated by different people didn't really help. I felt like the writing style sometimes felt a bit stilted, and I definitely think that that's the translation's fault. So that was a pity. But yeah, I'm still gonna keep it because a couple of stories, as I said, I enjoyed, and possibly maybe check out one of her novels, because I'm pretty sure that at least she wrote one, but I need to look, so don't take my word for it. Then I listened to the audiobook of How We Get Free, edited by Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, and this is basically a collection of essays and interviews that the author combined, and for the 40th anniversary of the Combahee River Collective, which was one of the most important feminist movements for Black women between the 60s and the 70s, and it was extremely interesting. There's the statement of the Combahee River Collective. There are interviews with the founding members that were interesting, as I said, but my problem with this book, because I think it's very important, and I would definitely, suggest you all read it, even though I give it 3 stars, which, I hate ratings in this sense, because I mean, the content of the book was a 5-star for me. It was such an interesting thing, you know, to be listening to and to learn also, because I didn't know a lot about this. But what I didn't really enjoy that much is the mixed media sort of format. Not mixed media, mixed genre, because essays and interviews, it was very short, and I would have much loved something longer, like interviews that were more in depth. I wanted to know more about their lives, although they do share some, you know, aspects of their lives, of course, but I just wish it was more, basically. And also, again, the audio book, especially for interviews, since the narrator is the same, sometimes I wouldn't really understand, I wouldn't really get, you know, the cues of the interviewer, because you would listen to and it would be like, oh yeah, oh really, oh wow, and then again the other person was speaking. Maybe they should have put like 2 narrators, I don't know. So it was a bit confusing in that sense, but ultimately, again, as I said, a very, very important read. They particularly focus on how other, you know, feminist movements, white feminist movements, just miss the point. Because if you say, like, if the black woman, and also they talk about queer women as well, black queer women, if she's free, then everybody else is free. She's like at the bottom. So that's the main thing that, you know, even present day movements need to take into consideration. Also, there's a quote that I really enjoyed that I want to share with you, which is always ally yourself with those on the bottom, on the margins, at the periphery of the centers of power, and in doing so, you will land yourself at the very center of some of the most important struggles of our society and our history. And this was Barbara Ransby. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, but I wish it was longer. Finally, just a quick mention, because I don't even know how to approach this, but this is a book that was, it's written in Italian, it's not translated, it's written by my oldest friend, and my most dear friend, I would say. And she wrote this book while we were in university, I remember, but she actually published it in 2017. And it's a complicated story, but I didn't get it until now. And I read it, and it was gorgeous, but I didn't give this one a rating because I can't. There's too much involved in this one. So I just thought I'd share because I want to track every book that I read. I actually added this one manually on Goodreads as well because I just wanted this one on my list. And it's also, it's sort of a novella again. And the protagonist is a Chinese boy, so I thought that it was fitting for the theme, even though of course this is not Unknown Voices short story, but nevertheless I read it, and yes, and it was good and it was great. So yeah, that's the last thing that I'm going to mention, and that's it for this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, if you have suggestions based on what I enjoyed, and we'll chat in the comments and see you in my next video. Bye!